I just wanted to quickly talk about a couple of things. Let's start off with Housemarque's new game, Returnal. Generally speaking, I think it's an awesome game. I don't advocate smoking Mary Jane, eating edibles, perhaps both at the same time, but if you happen to do those things and play this game, you're in for a treat. I was whacked the fuck out last night, high as a kite. They did a tremendous job with the haptics. But when that 3D audio kicks in, the thunder cracking behind my head, these alien creatures making noises, I was literally turning around and shit. So I can't emphasize how great of a job they did when it comes to leveraging the audio and the haptic feedback to make the game feel more immersive. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows, unfortunately, in my opinion, of course, but I think there's one thing we can all agree on that is a complete disaster when it comes to this game, the worst possible thing that can happen with this kind of game and the way it's set up. And that is, well, let me just give you an example. I was playing late last night. I was having the run of my life. Everything was falling into place just perfectly. I'm spitting all over the place here, but the show must go on. I was having an incredible run, and have you ever had your gameplay feel so on point, it's almost like you're seeing shit in slow motion, like you're in the fucking Matrix? That's how it actually felt for me last night. Perhaps part of it was the fucking marijuana, I don't know. So I got a ton of good gear, I have an amazing gun, my favorite weapon, it's like a level 7 or 6, I forget, but it's the highest level I ever had. I completely cleaned out the map, and I'm going back to the ship to sleep so I can regain all my health. Yes, Inspector Gadget, you figured out I'm still on the same fucking first level. Well, here's the deal. I can't play video games like I want to. I can only play a couple hours a day because I'm fucking dying, okay? So I'm doing the best that I can. Where was I? So yeah, back to the ship. I want to regain my health so I can go and fight that boss. And then this happened. These kinds of things are going to happen every now and then. It's unavoidable with most games. But let me tell you something. That shit crushed my soul. I gently pushed the off button on the PlayStation 5 and slowly walked away. I get it. This is going to be something that all players of Returnal are going to have to get used to. Starting over and over again, right? It's part of the experience. You may as well call this start over the video game. But the reality is I want that shit to be on my terms. Not crash randomly when I'm about to fight the fucking boss, who, may I add, up to this point has been kicking my ass all over. Alright, never mind all that. The point is, this is the worst possible game, or I should say type of game, for this sort of thing to happen. Okay, I got instant blue balls and shit. It sucked. Real bad. And so at first, I was like, why all these people crying about save states and shit? Who gives a fuck? It's not for you then. Play something else. Now I'm like, you know what? That save shit everyone's talking about? Maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea. You know, in fact, this game needs it. This game needs something in place. So if something like that happens where it's out of your control, you don't get completely fucked. I understand some people might say, well, you know what? People will just shut their shit off when they're about to die. They're going to exploit the system, so if they're having a bad run, they can just shut it off. Well, look, here's the deal. Then they're going to have to figure out how to do both, okay? Put something into the game while also not allowing people to exploit it. I mean, that's what they do. They're developers, for God's sake. Like, they figure problems out. They're good at it. Anyways, I'm enjoying the shit out of the game otherwise. But, just like, you know, Dark Soul or Hades, some games aren't going to be for everybody. And that's totally cool. You know why? There's a million other games to play. Games don't have to be a one-size-fits-all. But one last thing I wanted to quickly touch on. There's this thing going around where they're trying to convince you that if you don't pay the developers full fucking price at release, you don't really care about them. And you're not a true fan. Because if you really wanted to support them, you would pay full price. Well, here's how I feel about that. Number one, It's not in everyone's budget to pay full price. Some people need to wait for sales, including, I'm going to assume, the developers, right? I'm sure there are some things where they buy certain things on sale, whether it's automobiles, whatever it may be, right? Secondly, we do a lot more as fans than these entitled nice people give us credit for, including a ton of free publicity. Nothing against Returnal, I'm just using them as an example here. But I had their avatar, the moon guy, as an avatar on my Twitter, as well as an image from their game as a banner on my Twitter, and I was tweeting about it day and night up until release, right? Just like a lot of people. Some of us actually make YouTube channels and Twitch channels dedicated to certain video games, and that's the only content they choose to put out. The bottom line is, we do all sorts of things outside of paying for their game that directly benefit them. Okay? But one more thing I wanted to mention. Like, I get what they're saying when it comes to when people pay full retail, they buy it on day one. It helps them make other games, because that's what some of them are saying. If you really care about us and you really want us to make new games, you gotta buy that shit new. But the truth is, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee you're going to do that with the day one money. I buy the game as much as I possibly can on day one. But the reality is, so many games are coming out a hot mess day one. People are scared to death to buy anything on day one. But if these developers actually started to focus more on creating video games that aren't infested with bugs, glitches, and everything else at release, rather than complain, put guilt trips on us, and all this other shit, maybe they'll get our trust back, and we'll start to buy games day one again. Thankfully, Housemarque makes a good game, and I have faith when buying their games at release. Sure, they're not 100% perfect, but they're way better than most. I think they're way above the day one standard. Anyways, that's all I got to say on this matter. I'm not saying that they must implement some sort of thing where we can save whenever we want. I'm not saying that. I just hope they can put something into the game so when it crashes, the game recognizes that and puts us back exactly where we were before it crashed. That would be great and appreciated.